to the cartoon, yeah.
Kind of in between the last crappy cartoon, Transformers cartoon that Cartoon Network had going, the toys that were licensed to that, and the toys for the movie that came out not too long ago, Hasbro ran a kind of in-between line that were redos, new molds of old characters, classic characters from the 80s, just redone a little bit.
Doing a better job of them than the original.
Oh,
yeah, and he's one of them.
They've got the big budget behind them now, don't they?
The original Jetfire was actually one of the superior Transformer toys, in that he was probably the most posable of all the original ones.
Was one of the more popular ones.
He was very popular. He had die-cast metal, one of the very a reasonably complex but well-designed transformation and all that there. So in some ways, I will say the original toy was superior to this, but I'm still very happy with this.
All right. Well, it looks pretty cool, sure.
Yeah. And he's brand new as opposed to my other one, which is a good 20 years old, so I keep it in a box and don't touch very much.
No, is there like batteries in it where any of it lights up or moves or anything? No,
nope.
None of that.
Nope.
None of that fanciness.
Nope. If you look close, you can. If you hold his head up to the light, you'll see that his eyes light up though, because the back of his head is clear plastic.
Oh no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, the eyes glow blue.
Yeah, but I mean,
you have to hold it up to the light, but then the eyes do glow blue.
But I mean, that's pretty much the extent of the gimmickry, aside from the fact that it's obviously a robot jet.
All right. Yeah, it's cool. It's a nice, pretty blue. I mean, it's actually kind of cool looking. Yeah, some sugar here for my tea.
Nice blue.
All right, couple of cubes should do it.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Have three.
Have three. Ha! Why not? No, that would be too much. All right.
The last guy that had three didn't come down for days. As I recall. And then Casey Morty goes, "Oh well, in that case, I will." Okay, go ahead. How many of your subjects have you covered now? Only one or two?
Oh, we covered one.
Okay.
So I have two more.
Two more subjects.
Okay. The two are the idea for the show, and the other one has to do with individual autonomy in general. So let's hit the idea for the new show first, because since it is a live show, and since we might be able to start it here on the Tea Party, maybe not this show, but maybe in the future.
Right,
and because this is a live show of a call in nature, right?
Okay.
Which I never done before. So this is a new thing for me, but I came up with an idea.
Okay.
And the idea is ACCA. It's ACCA, and it stands for autism, or Autistic Creative Community of Asheville. And Autistic Creative Community of Asheville. Okay, well, why autistic, right? Well, here's why, I guess. It all comes back to me, I guess. This is in the sense that I myself have marginal autism. And so I've been dealing that with all my life, more strongly, of course, basically in the time I was 9 years old and younger. When I was 9 years old, I was really probably between 8 years old and 9 years old. But basically by the time I was 9, which was third grade for me, because I started school a year late, I was able to integrate more into society more, right? And, well, okay, then I had the profound debate, which I might as well touch on briefly because it is interesting. The profound debate was to retain or not my autistic characteristics, whether to try to lose them entirely or keep some of them, right? Keep in mind, of course, I was harassed and made fun of for my autistic characteristics, so that gave me motivation to lose them. What am I talking about? More specifically, autism, by definition, you're in your own world, and you don't really care about other people, right? which makes the classroom situation a little difficult. What would happen would be the teacher would have to give me special instructions to do something. In other words, if the teacher said, okay, class, take out your pencils and papers and write your name on the top, you know, if this was in second grade, the teacher would have to come back to me and say, Robert, that includes you too. You take out a piece of paper and you put your name on the top too, right? Because I would assume it didn't include me because I was off to myself.
That was only for people in the class, not
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, that's well.
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, that was.
Yes. How you doing?
Anyway, we'll pause for a moment here.
Nevada? Oh, Nirvana. Okay. Well, you know what? You're not watching my TV show, are you? Well, that would help. Yeah. That would be true. Yeah. How do you get your internet? Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, you know, in as much as you've called, I think that it's time for me to sort of make an announcement of general interest to mad scientists all over the area of Western North Carolina right now, and that is that this is the weekend for Shelby Ham Fest, and those of you who know, and you know who you are, you know what Shelby Ham Fest is, and if you don't know what Shelby Ham Fest is, and you're any kind of nerd at all, my friend Hawker has just called up to ask me if I was going to Nerdvana. And it's the Shelby Ham Fest in Shelby, North Carolina, which is going on this weekend, and it is the granddaddy of them all, and that's ham as in ham radio. There won't be barbecue. Well, there might be some barbecue, but it's not that kind of ham fest. It's
I think they should bust out some barbecue.
well, there may be some there. That's an interesting question you ask. If I'm going to go, yes. As you know, I always want to go. This particular year is being extremely difficult for me. Everything is packed in the storage bin in such a manner as that I really won't be able to organize anything to sell at all. See what I mean? So I might just go. A friend of mine asked me if I would haul some of his stuff in my truck, that he would pay for my gas and ticket to go down, and that turns to be the only way that I will be able to go. So if that works out, I may try to make the trip, but I don't have the money for even the gas to go there. So that's where I'm at. So this may be a totally different ham fest for me this year, you know. Are you? Wait. When did this happen? Really?
Breaking news.
Was this? Do you live in? You live in a totally different place now than you did last time you were here. Yeah. Was it at your house and they just took your trailer? Oh wow. Okay, well I hope you found something. I don't know. Yeah. They probably don't. However, you might check some pawn shops or something. Yeah, I'm on the air. Sure enough, and that was good to broadcast something because that's a point of interest to mad scientists is the health. Shelby have you gonna be down there for the weekend? I know. Really? Okay, that's what Hawker was just saying, that he almost bought a Jacob's ladder so you saw a Jacob's ladder for sale at the Shelby Ham Fest? You saw more than one. They're running what, 12 and 14,000 volts, that kind of thing? Okay, yeah, that's a good one. They make that's a nice little tabletop toy right there, isn't it? Okay. Right, every proper mad scientist can use a Jacob's ladder. Do you recall what the price was? Okay. Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll try to see you down there. I'm going to try to make it down. And but it's a real iffy situation. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Breaking news. This just in. Engaging in private phone conversations during live TV is considered rude to the guests and makes for very boring TV. I have been informed. And I think you can guess who that breaking news was from, judging by the clapping down the hallway.
Well, then you will just have to have people stop calling me during my show. But see, if that person had been a mad scientist who was not aware that the Shelby Ham Fest was this weekend, that would have been like the light bulb going off. That would have been the most, for a proper mad scientist, that might well be the most exciting news they'd heard this month. You know, and so I appreciated the phone call that made me aware again. I keep being absent-minded beyond belief. On with your tale. Go ahead. Back to the interesting stuff. The autistic. What is it now?
Autistic creative community of Asheville. Yeah, this would be a new show in the future. It doesn't exist yet. So we're trying to drum this up and figure out how it would play out.
Sounds like a good idea, because I can already think of a few people that I know that might be involved, that would be a show I would watch.
Yeah, okay, so let me give a little more about my background, then I'll go into how the show might play out. Okay. I just said back in second grade or so, that's like the big breakthrough. That's when I kind of integrated more and became, in a sense, less autistic, incorporated people around me more. In third grade, the teacher didn't have to tell me specifically whether to do something. If she told the whole class to do it, I would do it from then onward. But the thing is, I still retain some of my autistic abilities or whatever, tendencies or activities, whatever you might call it. And I guess probably the most notable one is ooh, right, which is of course difficult to do on live television. It's something I prefer to do in solitude, of course, because it requires intense concentration. Basically, ooh is intense imagination in an autistic sense, where you basically could shut down perception of what's around you if you're really good at it, which I was better when I was younger, of course, and you just imagine whatever you're imagining. Of course, back then a lot of times it would be exit ramps. I was interested in cloverleaf intersections when I was 5 years old, and how much tilt would you have on that ramp, and how the cars flow and whatnot. And I would imagine driving at the perfect speed, where it looks, if you were the passenger and the driver was driving just at the right speed, that the world was slowly turning around you steadily. It's quite interesting to do this, right? I've done it before, right, as a passenger. In a sense, that's almost oohing right there, right? But when you really you take it one step further and you imagine you able to shut down everything around you and imagine something different. But anyway,
quick question: is that a phrase that you came up with just to describe it to yourself?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's something that's a good question. Something I came up with, me and my brother and my sisters. We had to name it, right? And so that's the name we came up with was ooh. I guess it would be OU.
Or after when you ooh, or when you finally have shut off everything around you, is that then do you ah?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is there an ah after that? Maybe, maybe not. It depends what you're oohing about. Sometimes you ooh about frustrating situations.
Oh.
So it would be the exact opposite of an ah. You're going through frustration.
Yeah, oh.
It would be an oh.
Yeah,
It would be a little bit of disappointment, but you're working through your emotions and figuring out a solution to the problem at the same time, all in a rapid fire type of manner with your strong imagination. Of course, other autistic people probably, I'm assuming, would readily identify with this. Now what happened was, I guess, this goes partly into the individual autonomy too, right? We're right on the edge here, and this is the central issue, right? And the central issue is, do I really want to lose my autism and my ooh and all that entirely and try to totally conform to everybody, or do I really want to be off on my own little world and an individual somewhat, right?
I bet your answer is no, you don't want to.
Yeah, I wanted to be more of an individual and less conformist was my idea. The reason why I chose that, at the age of 9, was because I figured if you had a more stronger sense of yourself and independence, and you weren't trying to conform to everybody constantly, you would have better judgment and probably better enjoyment of life. Now I look back through my life, and that's largely true, and I largely made the right choice, at least I feel. And then I'm assuming, because I would see people around me and how they would try to imitate each other and how trends and cliques and all that form. And autistic people aren't really into, stuff like that because there's so much of a social phenomenon in autistic or more individuals and function individually. But enough of that. Let's just get on to the show real quick, so we get this done in case we have other stuff you all want to discuss, of course. The show itself, how would it play out? Okay, it would be a live call-in show. I guess we would maybe do it as a portion of a tea party to begin with, if you're willing, John, or separately. Now, let me just describe it first, and then you can give me your answer, right? Let me give you a little description so you kind of know where I'm going with this. What it is a lot of times autistic people can come up with they want to express themselves creatively, right? And they have their own ideas and their own ways of doing things. A lot of times other people don't understand them. Sometimes other autistic people may or may not relate to them, right? But in theory, especially in the nature of creative work, right, instead of personal habits, right, there might be enough common ground with autistic people to collaborate on something, right? Now, it could be physical collaboration, right? But I'm not leaning towards that, right? Physical collaboration would mean two autistic people who never met each other, who live locally, would somehow get together in our forum or wherever, and let's say draw a painting together or something like that. Maybe would work. You would have to have someone who knew more about autistic people and behavior to supervise them. Obviously, there could be a conflict or a fight. However, to reduce that danger and maybe set the stage up so you don't need an autistic specialist, right? Maybe to make things a little more simplified, we might be able to do something online where perhaps by setting up a website, autistic people could collaborate, at least initially, in an online discussion / online forum type thing, and especially to things that have to do with raw ideas themselves, and not something that's necessarily physical, such as a drawing. I'm talking more about mathematics, philosophy, and religion type notions, and even advanced scientific notions, and a lot of other things, even design type things or whatever, might be able to be discussed online by people who haven't met each other yet, and then after they collaborated over a period of a few weeks and they really got something going, then maybe they could opt to meet each other. Well, now I could ask you, what do you think of all that?
Well, so I have several questions and comments.
Oh, okay, sure.
One is, do you know of a website, anything like that now?
Right now, as far as I know, I don't.
Have you looked into it at all?
Not really.
It might be worth looking into.
Yeah, I could look into that and see if it exists. I think there is some websites about autism, but
they're probably not like
they
that.
weren't really like that in nature.
Probably informational stuff.
Yeah, this was more informational stuff, exactly, or maybe perhaps supporting a theory or an autism center where, where they would be, autistic people would be cared for in general. Where I'm talking about somehow to give them that creative outlet, right? Now we're almost stepping back into individual autonomy here, right? Which is so important to people with autism, right? And the thing is, and what they probably abhor, right, they really hate, is when people try to dominate their schedule too much. I know it's probably good therapy, and my mom did it with me, and it was, and with 5 siblings, that probably made me less autistic, and they did dominate my schedule, right? But gee, I sure relished my time alone, and sure enjoyed it, and I'm sure autistic people in an autistic center who might be constantly supervised either by a supervisor who might not totally understand them or relate to them, or they might have to be constantly around other autistic people who might not quite relate to their individual projects at hand. If they were able to collaborate online with other autistic people in the Asheville region, or even in the World Wide Web, maybe the two who think alike, who have a brilliant idea, could connect. And so maybe we could slowly get this kind of thing going. Now let's just touch on the individual autonomy thing real quick, and then we could go off to whatever. The important thing about individual autonomy is we have to think of the distant past. Let's say, I'm referring to mainly the 1970s, particularly the early 1970s and preceding, right? And I guess for you younger viewers, talk to your parents, grandparents about this to verify what I'm about to say and get their take on it. But the way I see it, back then, it just seems, as a general rule, if you were fortunate, right, if you weren't exceptionally busy with work, if you didn't have 2 jobs or whatever, right, and you did have a little spare time on your hands, right, so maybe for the more middle class and wealthy people of the distant past, or just the more people with a little more free time, what ended up is you had that time for solitude, the time to be by yourself, not with another person, not even with TV or necessarily radio or any kind of distracting or controlling activity. Time to think about what you want to think about and form ideas that are your true ideas and opinions and not those fed to you by somebody. Hence, individual autonomy. Now let's fast forward to modern times. We're post 9/11 now, right? My friend mentioned 9/11 earlier today as a contributing condition making this worse, this individual autonomy. And what happens now, and in general, and even without 9/11, just when you look at kids today, particularly, you might notice their schedule is incredibly filled up. Often with sports activities or other school activities, often to 8 at night. I've seen it myself. Kids playing sports on the sports field 8 or so at night. That didn't really happen when I was in school. We were home by 6. Those 2 critical hours critical hours of free time, of time to do what you need to do, time to be by yourself, or perhaps time for other responsibilities you might have for your family. And I guess I'm almost calling for a reversal of things to times past, when we trusted each other and trusted fate, and realized that life is a true gamble, and that sometimes you might lose, but you're never gonna get what you want, or you won't get it as soon or as good as you want it if you don't take a chance to begin with. And that applies in a lot of situations where playing things safe and cautious is great and critical, but sometimes you only can take it so far, where then it becomes overbearing and over restrictive. And that might be what I'm talking about, where you have too much activities and too much distractions for younger people, instead of time for them to reflect and develop on their own. Particularly, I'm talking about for people who are 16-year-old old and less. And I feel for them, and they almost were, in a sense, autistic, and were, in a sense, able to, and a lot of people are almost, even without autism, if they are age 6 or less. And if you all use your memories, you might notice that. Perhaps playing with toy soldiers or whatever, or in other activities, perhaps a video game in modern time, for modern youngsters, you get so enveloped in the activity, you lose your world around, you're almost there. But what I'm saying is good to do without the distraction of a video game, to have your true imagination take over, and that way you work through things more in your personal life, perhaps personal frustrations and other things more relevant to you, and more personal creative projects, hence the future autistic creative community of Asheville, perhaps. So it looks like at least covered most of my ground. What, we're gonna go off at 6:30, you think, John? So I don't want to hog everything. Now it might be time for you all to jump in and
I think that's
go off on
interesting.
your
I
tangents.
understand.
Yeah.
I kind of understand what you're saying, and I think what you're talking about the ooh is really interesting.
Oh, right.
I imagine you've probably heard of Asperger's syndrome, which some people
I
think
heard
is
of
a
it.
variation of autism.
I heard of it, but I forgot. Is that like
That's when
with savants?
that's somebody's got their butt caught in a blender.
It's actually named after, I believe, an Austrian, of course.
I have a good friend who has that. I wanted to make a comment though.
Okay,
It was
go ahead.
something I had. I've heard it said around here a number of times. You may not know that in public access you're considered some form of genius. Have you heard that before, or is that news to you?
Oh, just to be in public access?
Well, no,
or to have a show in public access, or what?
Yeah, for people who have viewed your show and people that are involved in public access, and they'll say Casey Waters' show, they'll say that guy is a genius.
Oh, wow! I didn't know that.
Well, I've heard it in this facility from at least 3 different people.
Well, gee,
make that comment.
Oh,
And,
gee, that's
but
nice to hear.
I never knew that you were autistic. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
and that helps to explain that, because people who are autistic will display traits of genius in certain areas.
Yeah, sometimes they often do, and hence what I'm trying to do with this creative thing. Now, if you go back to the show, and let me just, maybe touch briefly about how it's done, right? The show, the Casey Waters show traditionally, from day one, has been largely done by me and my friend Judson Laird, and occasionally my friend Julie Lounsbury back in Anchorage, now Julie Ariano, my friend and roommate from the distant past in Anchorage. She used to live with us back then. She would help us too. Largely it was done by myself. My friend Judson would do some filming, maybe help give me some ideas, and he would do the graphic artwork, which is commonly used as background footage. Then I would largely do the research, the writing. I would set the camera up, it's filming me, and I do the whole editing. So when you see the credits at the end of the show and it has two names, it's a little unusual, I guess, compared to most shows. And I guess with you, of course, it's largely done by you and the other people here. So with you, it's much the same. And I guess with a lot of public access people, public access shows, a lot of times are performed by these small crews. And so it's a lot of work, I guess, is what I'm saying. And I guess a lot of talent would have to go into it, creativity, dedication, etc., to pull it off. Sure.
It very much describes the show I work on.
Okay, now let us.
Yeah, what's your
See,
show?
I jumped on what you
your...
were getting ready to talk.
You were talking about Asperger's syndrome,
yes.
And I'm curious about where you're going with that, and I'm also curious about what your show is like.
Mount Dungeon. Mount Dungeon, Thursdays, 11 p.m., right here on URTV.
Oh, you
what's your
do
times?
Mount Dungeon. Okay, I saw the intro to it the other night, and then we were flipping through the channels, and my friend Judson wanted to watch something else, so
what,
he called me to watch something else.
What's your time slot?
My time slot is 9:30 on Thursday nights
9:30
here on
Thursday.
URTV. Of course, this might be subject to change. The schedule has been talk at URTV about schedule revision and revising the entire schedule. The viewers should go to urtv.org to get the latest schedule of URTV. And my time slot, of course, may change.
If that's the case, it'd still be a couple weeks before the time slot changes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But anyway, so you do what it was, Dragon what?
Mount Dungeon.
Oh,
That's okay.
Mount
Dungeon.
Mount
Dungeon. The guy.
He's off in his own world.
I'm off in my own world. Anyway,
the guy whose idea it was, Ben, he's the director of the show, and he created it, came up with the idea. He named it in his convention because its idea is it's an Asheville's underground music show is what we call it.
Oh,
and it's a different band every week, and the idea is it's underground music, even though we're just getting all sorts of bands left and right, so we're really not all that underground, even though I guess you could say Asheville is still underground. But the idea is Asheville is a mountain town, and it's underground music, therefore the dungeon.
Oh, now I get it, Mount Dungeon.
Although we usually don't bother explaining that. Usually if somebody asks what's up with the name, we just says, if you Google Mount Dungeon, we come up first.
Oh,
right.
Oh,
See,
that's
just like
good.
Casey Waters is the name.
And very unique.
It's
not
very
competing
unique,
with
and
anybody else for the name.
And it's a nice sounding name, and now that you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. It is actually a great concept, bringing bands together.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they don't have an outlet. But anyway, I'm just kind of thinking to myself about that I might be moving to Batcave in the future. If that happens, I would be, in fact, living in a relatively isolated location, which would be ideal for band practice. So who knows? Maybe if I meet up with a band, maybe they could practice in my place in the future. Who's to say? But anyway, because anyway, go on.
The reason I ask about Asperger's syndrome. Now, you say you have a friend that has Asperger's syndrome, and you don't have to reveal any great personal details,
and
but
he's
it
an
has
excellent musician.
Yes, but there's kind of and the theory is it's sort of a variation of autism, and usually tends to And usually it tends to just take on a singularly obsessive form. It's just kind of somebody focuses on one thing and becomes very obsessed with it. An example being the clover leaf exchanges.
That's right. If I constantly oohed about that, perhaps I would be displaying symptoms of Asperger's syndrome. And of course, I could almost relate to it slightly now I think about it.
There's an extreme case of a guy, I can't remember his name, but a really extreme case about a guy whose obsession was the New York City subway. But because of certain behavioral characteristics he had, he could never pass the screening to get a job working for the New York metro system. But he loved it, and he hung out there all the time. He got himself a uniform, he got himself a whole ring of keys and everything, and the employees loved him. Because he knew more about the New York subway system than anybody that worked for it. He knew how to do every job, and the employees loved him because, among other things, he would do He
could fill in for anybody.
He was happy to. It's like, hey, cover me for an hour. And he would, because he loved it.
Oh, that's incredible.
So a lot of the employees would give him keys and help him out and, happy to have him hanging around. But, of course, he wasn't an employee, so he wasn't supposed to be there. So numerous times he got arrested for trespassing and the like. And eventually, after repeated times, ended up getting sent to jail. He was sent to jail, and because he had a medical condition, they put him in solitary so he wouldn't be in the general populace. But there he is.
Good. But hopefully he's out. I mean, hopefully this was a short sentence.
I don't remember how long the sentence was. It was about 4 years ago, I'd want to say, when I read this article 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, it's kind of a long time ago. Well, hopefully he's out by now.
I hope so. I think that's what I was thinking. I mean, here's the single best employee they had, and they didn't have to pay him.
Yeah, exactly.
And they kept kicking him out.
I know, it seems ridiculous they put him in jail to begin with. I mean, the way I see it.
I agree.
I'm so sure.
And it's just, I don't know, but as I was saying before, this sense of individual autonomy and individual decision making and individual theory forming and the ability of individual to do research on their own without guidance of it or influence by others is always very critical. And anybody who sees that being limited to them or anybody else should see that as a restriction on their very personal freedom and learning ability, of course. But anyway, hopefully nothing will happen like that in the future, but we have to constantly be on guard for such activities. Gee, I bet that sounded nice. It impacted the mic correctly.
I didn't have the headphones on, but I bet it was
a nice...
I bet it popped that microphone.
A nice pop there.
Yeah.
How much did that microphone cost?
Not much.
No. Oh yeah, it probably wasn't damaged. It's got its protective screen on it.
No, it's just fine.
Yeah.
It's just a little water.
Well, I bring this up because there's no diagnosis or anything, but my girlfriend and I have the theory that I may in fact be a very borderline, essentially functional case of Asperger's syndrome.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
That I had certain childhood characteristics, like little things like I went through the fussy phase where I'd only eat white food, which is commonly a common symptom of children who have Asperger's syndrome. I had a lot of trouble integrating with the rest of my class and all that there. And I have a huge obsession with science fiction, like robots, ray guns, and rocket ships.
Aha.
Right. Say no more, except just to tell our guest Casey Waters here how many times you've been to what's the bot movie?
Transformers.
Tell it.
I've seen the Transformers movie 5 times.
5 times.
Oh, okay.
The only movies I absolutely make a point of seeing are movies that have robots, ray guns, or rocket ships in them. I have to go see those in the big screen. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Have to go, even though I know it might be bad. You put a robot, a rocket ship, or a ray gun in a movie, I want to see it.
Oh, all right. Well,
And
I mean, so yeah, these are certain kind of qualities. You're kind of obsessive, sure.
But and I have to say though, at some point I can't quite. And you're talking about making the choice to integrate or not. And I guess at some point, being a very odd kid, it's the sort of thing where I'm not aware of really consciously a single point, but there was a time in which I kind of decided to try and adapt myself to integrate more.
Oh, okay.
And
Well, all right, and that of course happened for me from second grade to third grade, and that's why the teachers stopped having to give me special instructions individually. But then I drew the line and said, okay, I'm not going to integrate further.
yeah,
And I'm guessing.
So
I'm
it's
guessing
like I did
just
it
never
halfway,
reached
a partial thing. But it makes sense. I mean, you have to integrate in order to function in society and to fare well, of course. Sure, I mean, but once again, the individual autonomy and the individual qualities that might be retained are interesting too, of course. So I guess there has to be some kind of a balance to be struck. I guess would be the logical conclusion. Anyway, go on.
What you're talking about the ooh though, I mean, I used to literally, like as a kid, pace back and forth. I called it thinking, and my imagination would just go.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
like over the top. I do things like either like redo Star Wars in my own image or something like that, or just, imagine myself flying through space with spaceships.
Oh, cool.
And just all sorts of things like that.
Well,
And-
that sounds similar to
Yeah.
ooh, and it might not be quite as extensive of ooh, but it sounds very similar though, in the sense that it's strong imagination and you're kind of really concentrating on it. So yeah, and it is an interesting quality because this thing I see is that somehow behind that ability of that concentration to really focus on something, there might be a talent or ability that could be utilized. And that's what I'm trying to discover, and I think it might be actually, useful, especially in the future, because as I said, you talk about people all, being caught up in either computers, video games, or whatever, where they're distracted or occupied, to be able to have the ability to obsess on one thing with total imagination, like as you were saying, rewriting Star Wars with you as the character in it. I mean, to be able to read to it and think it clearly, that's the thing. To be able to think it with clear imagination is quite useful. Keep in mind, Tesla, for instance, with nearly all of his inventions, never drew any drawings of the prototype.